Hi cuties! So, AGP, HSTS. Are the typologies correct? Short answer, it's bullshit. It's all bullshit. And if you stay tuned for the long answer, we'll go through why. But first, we have to know what HSTS and AGP is. These are terms coined by a dinosaur and turf icon, sexologist Ray Blanchard. These are Blanchard's typologies. AGP stands for autogynephile. Blanchard believes AGPs, autogynephiles, are men suffering from something called target location error. That is, they get off on the idea of themselves being a woman. They're not actually attracted to women, they're just attracted to themselves as a woman. And so they transition to fulfill this sexual fantasy themselves as women. They're just cross-dressing men fulfilling a sexual fantasy. That's Blanchard's autogynephile, transsexual. HSTS are the opposite. They're gay men with a sexual fantasy of trapping straight men. They transition to fulfill a sexual fantasy of having sex with straight men. So that's a quick summary of what Blanchard believes the two types of transsexuals are. Just straight men with a fetish of being women, or gay men with a fetish of being with straight men. There's a few problems with these two typologies of trans people. Quite a few problems. A couple of big ones are, one, it completely ignores the fact that trans men exist. And two, it completely ignores the fact that bisexual people exist. In Blanchard's world, bisexuals don't exist. If you're a bisexual trans person, you're just pseudo-bi. Okay, bisexuality doesn't exist if you're trans, apparently. You know, even though they exist for cis people. I mean, do cis straight men just suffer from target location error? Sexuality and gender expression is so diverse. It's on a diverse spectrum. I mean, cis people, they can be bi, straight, gay, okay? Some cis women, they like to be really feminine. Some cis women, they like to be tomboys. Some cis women, they like to be really masculine women. But they aren't boxed and pigeonholed into silly typologies or sexualized and monstered in the way that Blanchard does trans people. So this diverse spectrum exists for everybody else, except for trans people. If you're trans, you're either a straight man with a fetish of being a woman, or a gay man with a fetish of having sex with straight men. That's it. There's no straying outside those lines. It's silly and it's stupid, it's really dumb, and it's bullshit. And a recent German study proves that. There's been a study done, and the study has concluded that these typologies don't really exist. Again, the sexuality and gender expression of trans people are extremely diverse. And there are some slight, tiny differences between androphilic trans women and gynophilic trans women, but these differences are pretty much negligible. And when it comes to bisexual trans women, Ray Blanchard says they're just pseudo-bi. They're just meta-attracted. They're not really attracted to men, they're just attracted to the validation that the men give them, that they're actually just autogynephiles. They're just lumped in. They're jerry-rigged into the autogynephile camp. But the German study actually shows that bisexual women, these negligible differences, they actually fall more on the androphilic side. They have the same negligible differences as those on the androphilic side, rather than the gynophilic side. Which blows Blanchard's theory on the pseudo-bi autogynephile theory completely out of the water. He's completely wrong on that. I'll put the link to the study in the description. It was a study published in the Journal of Sexual Science. And we'll go through the study a little bit in a minute, but personally, I didn't even need a study to know these typologies were bullshit, because I exist. I know what I am, and I know what I'm not. I know how I feel, I know how I don't. If we go back to the AGP, before transitioning, I mean, for several years, I had no libido, like zero libido. I mean, I don't think I even masturbated in like 4 years. Once I left my ex-girlfriend Katie, I just had no sexual desires or libido at all. I had no fantasies. I was never horny. I'd completely checked out of sexuality completely. So according to Blanchard, I can't be AGP. According to Blanchard's own typology, I can't be AGP because obviously I didn't transition for sexual reasons. I certainly have never had fantasies of being a girl. I certainly never got any erotic feelings or arousals from the thought of being a girl. But here I am, still transitioning. I actually got a libido 3 months after starting transition. But still, nothing to do with being a girl or wanting to be a girl, and no fantasies of anything like that. It's more along the lines of my boyfriend. So, according to Blanchard, I'm not AGP. However, also before transitioning and years before my little mental breakdown, I've only ever had girlfriends. Lots of girlfriends. 2 fiancés, 2 I lived with. I was just a normal straight guy. I wasn't particularly masculine, but I put on a masculine front. I wasn't particularly feminine either. I wasn't gay. I was just like a normal straight guy. I was always pretty dominant in bed. I had a healthy, full sex life with all my girlfriends. So also, according to Blanchard, I'm not HSTS. So Blanchard claims that there's only 2 types of trans people, AGPs or HSTS, but according to Blanchard's own typologies, I'm neither of them. So where does that leave me? So that's how I know that AGP and HSTS is bullshit, because he says I should be one of them, and yet I'm not. But here I am on hormones transitioning. I think the guy needs to go back, and if he believes that his typologies are correct, then he's clearly missed something out. Okay, so onto the German study. Blanchard says that only autogynephile trans women. This is what he calls transbians, basically. If you're a transbian, you're an AGP. He says that only transbians become aroused when they cross-dress. Well, the German study proves this wrong, as 36% of androphilic trans women also become aroused when they cross-dress. And you can see the problem in the overlap here. If AGPs are just straight men with target location error, they're getting aroused cross-dressing because they have a sexual fantasy of them being a woman, then how does he explain the 36% of androphilic trans women who also get aroused cross-dressing? They're exhibiting the exact same behaviour as these so-called AGPs. Now I'm using the word aroused as this is the word they use in this study, but this is probably better translated as, you know, a feeling of euphoria, of liberation. You know, you're happy, you're excited, you feel free. People seem to forget that trans people have been repressed for a long, long time. And when you dress more as your true self, you're going to feel a lot happier in yourself. You're going to feel more, quote, aroused, unquote. You're going to feel sexy, you're going to feel good about yourself. Wearing a skirt and top makes me feel happier than when I'm wearing a suit and tie. But I'm not there masturbating over it, I just feel better. Another problem with the AGP theory that the German study brings up here is if these AGP trans women have a target location error and are only sexually attracted to themselves as being women, then why do the majority of them have and hold happy, healthy, long-term relationships? They should, by Blanchard's own admission, be lonely and solitary and focus only on themselves. But they don't. The study shows comparable engagement in relationships in both gynophilic and androphilic trans women. Gynophilic trans women are just as likely to be involved in a relationship as androphilic trans women. Well, that shouldn't happen if you're only sexually attracted to yourself. It shouldn't happen, and yet they do. And the engagement is comparable. A main staple of Blanchard's two typologies is sexuality, or the desire for sex is a major motive for both groups to transition, right? The gynophilic trans women transition because of their sexual fantasies of being a woman, and HSTS transition due to their sexual fantasies of trapping straight men. However, the German study the data shows the gynophilic trans women do not attribute a particularly great importance to sexuality. And the majority in the study stated that it would be of little or no importance if they were to lose the ability to experience sexual arousal. So if you're transitioning for a sexual fantasy, or if it's just a fetish, then why would you not care if you lose that arousal? And not to mention hormones themselves sort of dull your libido a little bit. So technically, if you're transitioning due to this sexual fantasy of being a woman, wouldn't you lose that sexual fantasy after starting hormones and therefore detrans? So why are we not seeing mass detransitions of these AGPs? We're just not seeing it. But according to Blanchard, we should be, and yet we're not. And the study concludes with there's no evidence for the hypothesis that sexual behavior, desire, or psychosexual experience differ substantially in gynophilic and androphilic trans women. So basically, the Journal of Sexual Medicine's short answer on this is it's bullshit. It's all bullshit. Look, in the 50s and 60s, black men were seen as, rapists, violent sexual predators. In the 80s and 90s, gay men, were labelled as paedophiles and groomers. Well, we're in the 2000s now, and trans people are the new rapists and sexual predators. Trans people are the new groomers. That's all this is. Throwing mud with sexual connotations at a minority group that you hate, hoping that it sticks, manipulating the minds of the public, making them view you in a certain way. This is a tactic as old as time. They've used it against other minority groups in the past. Now it's trans people's time. AGP, HSTS is transphobic nonsense, written by bigots living in a completely different century to the rest of us. Sexuality and gender is on such a wide, diverse spectrum, you can't just pigeonhole people into strict, silly camps like this. You pick 10 just random cis guys out of a crowd. They're not all going to be alpha chads. You're going to get some feminine guys, you're going to get some masculine guys, you're going to get some guys in between, you're going to get some sensitive guys, you're going to get some tough guys, but they're still all just straight guys, right? Where's their typologies? Why don't they have a typology? And isn't it interesting how Blanchard likes to ignore the existence of trans people, trans men, sorry. He ignores the existence of trans men, and he ignores the existence of bisexual people. Isn't that interesting? Almost as if he's only targeting one type of trans person, isn't it? That must be why his Twitter comments are all full of TERFs applauding him like clapping seals. Retards. Okay. So that's that. It's all bullshit. Don't worry about it, darlings. Some people are straight, some people are gay. Some people are masculine, some people are feminine. You be you, boo. Everybody else thinks. Thank you to my lovely patron, Kosmo. A little shout out to my friend Sophia. A shout out to Miss Moto. Hi. And a shout out to my lovely boyfriend, my little Danny. I love you. Bye bye. Zippity.